My name is Eric Alexander. I'm the Executive Director of the Brigham Education Institute. It's a real pleasure to have you join us for one of so many of the digital programming that we provide, and it's great to have everyone involved. It's a real joy to launch a new series, and that's what we're doing here today, a programmatic series that we call Take the Next Step. We centered this around the idea that we get a lot of questions from people who want to grow as a healthcare educator, and we give a lot of advice, or we see a lot of common themes, and we thought we'd kind of anchor around that. So we have 5 really exciting programs. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our core members of the BEI core faculty, Kristina Dzara, who's leading us off on this educational series we call Take the Next Step. She'll be talking, as I mentioned, about kind of how you elevate yourself in an academic environment, how you move yourself forward, craft kind of the way to make sure you're connecting with the people you can. Christina is our lead for education, science, and initiatives, and a core person who helps me and all of us understand what the medical education science is telling us, where it's moving, and is a great resource also to each of you if ever she can be of help. So with that, thank you, Christina. I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Eric, for that. I really appreciate the kind introduction. As you said, my name is Kristina Dzara. I'm a PhD medical educator, and I support the education and science initiatives at the Brigham Education Institute. I'm also an assistant professor of pediatrics at Harvard Medical School. And my goal here today is to help each and every one of you build your confidence when meeting new people in professional settings. That is what this whole talk is about. And we are actually going to have, I think, a good deal of fun today. So come along with me on this journey. Starting with some disclosures, I have no financial disclosures. I will tell you that I absolutely love the field of medical and health professions education. And I love helping others grow as educators as well. I want to make sure everyone knows that Caitlin DePaula is serving as our chat moderator today. I will also tell you that at the Brigham BEI, we have a tweet-friendly environment. We actively use Twitter to talk about the initiatives that we're doing at the BEI, and I personally use Twitter as well as part of my professional brand, as part of letting people know what I do professionally. So my handle is at Kristina Dzara. Our hashtag for the event today is hashtag Brigham BEI. So if at any point in time something I say captivates you or interests you, or you think other people should know about it, feel free to tweet that if you are a Twitter user. Now, I've gotten some mentoring on public speaking, and they say start with a story. A story draws people in. And in 2015, I made the professional decision to seek additional training in medical and health professions education. And I enrolled, honored to be accepted to the Master's in Medical Education program at Harvard Medical School. And it was a 2-year full-time program. I took 2 years off the full-time job, and I did this purposefully so that I could become a better educator and really understand the field. And so in the second year of training, we had this sort of professional development week. And during that week, we had different talks. We had someone come in and help us figure out how to make our CVs more impactful, how to navigate the job search, how to think about negotiating for the things that we want, and also the elevator pitch. And our program director, Dr. Jennifer Kesselheim, was giving us this sort of 1-hour interactive session, and all of the resources, all of the information that she shared with us was from the business literature, or a tiny bit from nursing, which is definitely very much relevant, and education literature. But really, there was nothing that focused on medical or health professions education. And so at the end of the session, I said, Jennifer, do we have no resources in our field? Do we have nothing that would tell somebody who is a medical or health professions educator how to actually go about making an elevator pitch and feeling confident in what they do? And Jennifer said to me, no, I couldn't find anything. And I don't know why I said this. I don't know what inspired me, but I said, Jennifer, I think this would make an excellent last page in academic medicine. I've never published one, but if I try it, if I serve as first author and do that background work, would you be senior author? And we'll try to see if we can get something out there to help people. And she said, sure. And 2 weeks later, I sent her a draft. And 2 weeks after that, we had a draft that we felt comfortable sending to the journal. And 3 months after that, we actually got an acceptance. And about a year after that, this paper was published. And I'm particularly proud of this paper because it is one of, if not the only paper in medical and health professions education, which actually tries to give people a guide to create and effectively execute an elevator pitch. And one thing I will say about our field is that we wonder about the impact of our work from time to time. We work so hard to publish a paper and we wonder, does anybody read it, right? Well, I'm proud to say that this article has an altmetric score of 154, which is pretty high in our field. This paper has been tweeted about 239 times. And altmetric actually reports it as having a high attention score compared to papers that are of a similar age. Now, this is meaningful to me, because I interpreted that people looked at it, people might have even really read it, and hopefully they gained some valuable knowledge through it. Now, my point here, and it's possible I'm making a slight aside and giving just a little bit of advice, is that sometimes opportunities are revealed to you in odd ways. So keep your eyes open when something strikes you in your professional work as an opportunity, because you just may be able to fill a gap in the literature and have some awesome opportunities like giving a talk at the BEI because of it. What I want to go ahead and do is just move on to my learning objectives for you today. We want to recognize as a group that all health professions educators, regardless of their seniority, need an elevator pitch. We are going to understand that your elevator pitch will change situationally and over time. We are going to all together today develop our elevator pitch using that published 4-step process I talked about earlier in the paper that we published. And we are also going to consider ways to improve the success of our elevator pitch. Now, one thing I want to say for those of you who feel a little less confident is that it's not uncommon to feel stuck. It's not uncommon to feel that you don't know what to do or how to do it, or that maybe you're even wondering, oh, does someone even want to talk to me, or I'm going to look a little rambly. Well, it can be intimidating to go up to somebody you don't know. Absolutely. Not everybody is naturally a gregarious, extrovert person. And so especially for us that may feel a little timid going up to people, yeah, it can have that intimidation factor. It can be hard to speak concisely. We all have journeys. We've all been places in our careers, in our lives. It's a long story, and it's not always easy to tell succinctly. We may lack a structured approach, feel like we're giving a little bit of word salad to someone we don't know, and that doesn't come off as extremely professional. And we want to avoid seeming needy or awkward or incompetent. We want to put forward our absolute best self. And if we don't have a structured approach to doing that, we may find that we don't feel as confident as we should feel. Now, what I did is I went ahead and I contacted a couple of buddies I have. I want to see what other medical and health professions educators had to say about the importance of the elevator pitch. I wanted to do a little crowdsourcing here. And the first person I reached out to was Vic Brazel. Vic is a fantastic senior medical educator. She is a simulationist, and one of her areas of expertise is public speaking and presentation of self. And what she says is, I asked her, do you have an elevator pitch? And she said, I don't have one pitch. I actually have many versions of my message that I adapt to the audience. I might think about time, place, attitude, and even number of people who are joining. Well, what I want to point out here is that she highlights this key of adaptability or flexibility that you want to have in your pitch, recognizing that you may not speak to each and every person you encounter in exactly the same way. So maintaining that little bit of flexibility there is key. I reached out to Ariel Fry-Vogel, one of my colleagues over at MGH, and I asked her, why is an elevator pitch important? And she said, oftentimes the opportunities you want next professionally, they're not going to just be offered. No job listing may be there for the job that you actually want. If you want to do something different or new in your career, you need to actually ask for it. And I love this because it highlights something that many of us maybe know to be true, but don't often think enough about, which is that sometimes you have to be prepared to ask for what you want. Maybe you actually want to be the clerkship director, right? And you want to move on up into that role. You may have to ask for it. Maybe you want a raise. Maybe you want a new title, right? You may have to ask for those things, and being prepared is going to make you appear confident when doing so. I reached out to another one of my colleagues, someone here at the BEI, Naveen Kumar, and I asked him, what makes you nervous about your elevator pitch? And he said it's actually really hard to capture the key components of all the things he does in just a few sentences. He said he's afraid he'll miss something important. I also really like this one because he highlights that it can be confusing. It can feel overwhelming to try and identify all of the core components you want others to know about you when you're speaking with others. So he sort of highlights this idea that you have to be able to be a little bit streamlined and you have to be able to be very coherent in putting forward who you are. And finally, I reached out to someone who has actually given me mentoring, Grace Wong over at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and Harvard Medical School. Grace is also the editor-in-chief of MedEd Portal. So this is someone who speaks publicly often and has a very strong presentation of self, which is why I asked her. And I said, what is your best tip about elevator pitches? And Grace said, it's actually hard to remember long-winded titles, and academic medicine is full of them. So use a phrase that represents what you want people to remember about you, such as I lead clinical operations for radiology, or I run simulation programs for medical students. And I thought this was such great advice as well, because what she does highlight is that we use a ton of terms and acronyms in academic medicine. We don't even always know what they mean at our own institution, let alone what others might perceive we're talking about, because these acronyms may vary by institution or by field. And so using clear and succinct language about what you actually do is going to help others understand what you're talking about. So I actually loved all four of these great pieces of advice by four fantastic educators, one in Australia and three local here to Boston. Now, I would like to ask everybody to imagine a scenario with me. So you are reading a poster at the AAMC meeting or your next big meeting that you're going to, either in medical education, health professions education, or your clinical field. And next to you is an influential an accomplished educator and researcher in your field, somebody you really look up to and would absolutely love to meet. And she's about to move on. What do you do? Capitalize a little bit on the opportunity, like, hey, it's not really my fault that we happen to be poster buddies, but since we're here, let's chit-chat with each other. And second off, taking it a little casual, right? Oh, since we're here, I just wanted to introduce myself to you. And the thing I love most about it is take the opportunity to introduce himself, right? I've had people say, I don't know if I would actually talk to them. I'm not really sure. Asking a question about their poster, being invested and interested in what that person's doing is a great way to get entries. It doesn't always have to feel insurmountable. It doesn't have to feel huge. It can feel small, and something small can grow into something a little bit bigger. What I want to do now is walk everybody through these 4 steps of the published process that we published in that paper. And so those 4 steps, and we tried to make them really easy to remember. Who are you? What is your ask? What do you add? And how to act? So if you think about these as 4 unique steps, 4 phases of the elevator pitch, it can help walk through that cycle so that by the time you get to how to act, the person listening to you doesn't even realize how quickly and eloquently you've moved forward that cycle. So step number 1 is that who are you? And you can keep this real simple. Your name, your institution, your current position. But you do want to make sure that you articulate your unique skills or expertise just a little bit. And part of that is that hook, right? Hooking that person in to make them want to continue listening to you. So, for example, what I might say is, hello, my name is Kristina Dzara. I'm a PhD medical educator from Harvard Medical School and Brigham and Women's Hospital. I work with faculty and trainees on faculty development initiatives and educational research projects. I've enjoyed your papers about how we can more impactfully employ qualitative research methods in medical education. So what I'll point out here is in just 15 or 20 seconds, they know my name, they know where I work, they know what I do, and I've given them a compliment. I've read their work. I like their papers. That's reeling them in to be interested in you. second step, which is what is your ask, right? What is one thing you would like to gain or explore? So in some cases, maybe you do just want to meet somebody and you don't have something else that you'd like to get out of it. But oftentimes you do. Maybe it's simply, I'd love to get to know you. I'd like to have a phone call. I want to network with you. I'm interested in collaboration. I'd like to get some mentoring with you. I have this project that I need help on, right? Whatever it is, have that in the back of your mind, because that is the step 2 of this process. So mine may be, I would appreciate the chance to tell you more about my current project. I'm developing a collection of helpful resources to educators conducting qualitative and mixed methods research. I know your insights would greatly improve my efforts. Would you be willing to give some advice? And so here, I sort of give a little homage to that person, right? I'm doing this project. It's something that you might be interested in. I think even a little bit of your time would help me. Will you give me some advice? So I'm having a clear ask to somebody about what I want from them. And the third step is describing the contribution you would make or the improvements you could foster by working with them, by engaging with them. So really we're talking about what do you add? And for me, what I thought I might say is, I think there may be some exciting ways we could work together. We might be able to brand these resources I'd like to develop as being developed at both your institution and mine. I have a strong social media presence, and we might also develop a strategy to share these resources with educators worldwide. So here I'm driving excitement. I'm using the term exciting. I think we could work together. And that the shared efforts of this labor, one, could be a shared win for both of our institutions, but also that we might be able to share these more broadly with educators even outside of our institutions, right? Nowadays, it's so much about which of your work can you translate? How can you get something further, right? Is someone somewhere else going to use your resources? So I'm pulling them into that, getting them excited about that. And finally, is step 4. How are you going to act? And here's an opportunity to establish plans for the next step. How can you follow up? How can you solidify this in stone? So I might say, can we connect on Twitter? Or can I email you so we can discuss further? Now, one thing I want to point out is that I'm framing these as questions, right? I'm not framing these as statements. I will email you to discuss. No. We want a question. May I email you? Can we connect? Why do I want it framed as a question? It's because you are getting their buy-in. You are getting their permission to contact them, right? So when you send that email, when you message them on Twitter, whatever it is that you do to connect with them, they're not going to be surprised like, oh, who is this person out of the blue? No, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I did sort of give my consent or permission for this person to contact me. So first off, you do want to balance that smooth delivery with authenticity. You do want to commit your basic pitch to memory, and these would be just the things that you would tell anybody, right? The basic components of your pitch. And again, remember, we walked you through those 4 steps. You can always put those together. You do want to practice your pitch. And I don't mean that this has to be perfect. I don't mean that this has to be over and over and over. But something like what we did today, or giving it to a colleague that you trust, is absolutely a way to feel more confident going into these situations where you're going to be speaking with somebody that you've never met before. And you do want to make sure that you deliver it naturally. You don't want to seem robotic or, overly practiced, but confident. You want to update your pitch early and often, especially if you're going to a meeting, you're going to a networking opportunity. I mean, I know we're in a unique time in our lives right now with COVID-19. That would be naive not to mention that. But, when I used to go to things like events or talks and I knew there would be coffee and cookies afterwards, on the train over there, I might be thinking to myself, what would I want to share with people? When people ask me, what are you up to right now? What do I want to tell them at this time? And it's just putting a little bit in your brain just to remember to remind yourself to go into opportunities like this prepared. And we do want to all make sure that we can adjust for new context and new asks. So think back to what Ariel Frey-Vogel was saying about you may have to ask for an opportunity. You may have to get a little real with somebody, right? That's a slightly different pitch, but being prepared is never going to hurt. Finally, body language does matter. You want to appear open and inviting, having that open posture, making eye contact, maybe using a few hand gestures. One day, hopefully, it will be safe enough for us to offer a firm handshake. And when that time comes, I would recommend that you consider doing that, again, only when it is safe to do so. And finally, practice makes perfect, right? Don't feel that you should have to do this completely naturally. Don't feel like there's something off if you have to practice to feel confident, right? Look at yourself in front of a mirror. See how you appear to yourself. This is how you appear to other people. Give your pitch to yourself a few times. Think about how you can take your own formative feedback to improve. Think about whether you can do it with a colleague, a friend, a trusted other, and do collect their feedback. What didn't they like about your pitch? What did they like? How can you keep doing those positive things and improve those things that maybe didn't come off as well? And with that, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to thank each and every one of you who joined me today. I will tell you, if you click this QR code, you can access the full paper. It is open access, and you can grab it if you want to. If you have trouble with the QR code, shoot me an email, shoot Caitlin an email, and we can get the PDF to you, no problem. But this is a resource that I would recommend you read just to solidify the learning that we've had today. And again, thank you everybody for joining.